So Brian Kelly is officially out as head football coach for the LSU Tigers in an act that I can't say that I predicted at the beginning of the football season, but nonetheless is not surprising that it did happen. And if you ask a lot of LSU fans, a lot of people that just, watch a lot of football, they'll agree that the inevitable was going to happen here. A lot of people didn't like Brian Kelly. I didn't see him too favorably either. And obviously there's a lot of other things that go into this, not just the fact that you don't like somebody. Well, you may not like somebody, and if they win a lot of football games, well, maybe that person's not so bad. For Brian Kelly, it was a lot of things that happened and built upon the among the time that he was here, all from the very start, from the get-go. It was a shaky relationship, an interesting relationship, and it is over. Brian Kelly officially out as LSU's head coach, and really that makes this coaching carousel just that much more interesting. So automatically LSU at the very top of the job board. Under that, number 2, probably Penn State. Florida would be number 3. That's my list. Now, depending on who's out there, different candidates, different head coaches out there may have a completely different, opinion on which school is number 1. Obviously, a candidate that would want to coach or fit into the Penn State job, probably not the same kind of coach that would fit in at LSU. So you would flip those two. You could say the same thing, Penn State to Florida. Now, a Florida and an LSU candidate could be similar, but there is an extreme cultural thing at LSU that we'll talk about in just a moment that really makes a difference, really makes that job unique among others. So it is a exciting and a fun time to be a college football fan, even a casual fan for that matter, because of all this drama that's going on. Because, if you're a casual, you may watch a little bit, but all this off the field stuff with these fan bases fighting and all this drama going on, that's entertaining to anybody, honestly. And it's a great time to have a podcast. And this is College Football Y'all. My name's Brandon Taylor, as always. Thank you so much for listening, for watching on YouTube, however you are viewing or listening to this. As always, I really do appreciate it. And if you love college football, if you love content, if you love to hear a perspective that's a little bit different from all the other big boys out there that work for these big companies that actually make money to talk about this, if you want a little bit different perspective, maybe, then subscribe. But if you just love college football, you should subscribe anyway, because, you can never consume enough content. Come on now. This is all everybody does. This is right here. Grab their little phone and they scroll all day, every day. So why don't you just listen to my podcast here, College Football Y'all, and take just a small chunk out of your day, whether that's your drive or whether that's, things you're doing at work. I usually listen to podcasts throughout the whole day, and it really helps me get through. So if that is appealing to you, subscribe, follow on the socials. It's all in the description below. I would appreciate it. But enough of all of that. Let's get into this, because LSU is, they're in the market for a new coach now. And, I will speak about this as I'm talking about it through here, because we're going to get into the buyout thing here in just a little bit. And we're going to look at all the buyouts currently out there in college football. And just a little hint, just a little spoiler, there are some huge numbers, and I've got some strong opinions for just the way this whole thing is structured these days. This is going to be a Coaching Carousel heavy podcast again, because it seems like the past 2 or 3 episodes that I've made, there's been these groundbreaking things happen, and it's the talk of the town. And it honestly, the games are important, but in between the games, this is what you're after. Because now Sunday through Friday, It's not about the game. It is about the game, obviously, but you want to know any small developments. Did somebody say so-and-so? What does this message board say? This fan base talking this trash, this fan base talking trash. Fan base is fighting, each other over a certain coaching candidate. It's all a fluid situation that's very entertaining, honestly. And like I said a moment ago, even the casual fan is having a great time in all this muck. But back to the original topic here. LSU is in the market. Okay, we're talking about LSU exclusively here. And this is, like I said, something that I did not expect going into this football season. Now, LSU fans were quick to tell me at the beginning of the season, right before week 1, actually, when I made some videos that where I rated all the SEC coaches and kind of gauge their seat temperature. Are they on the hot seat? Are they on a extremely hot seat? Are they on a mildly hot seat? Or is their seat cold as ice going into the football season? And obviously that was going to change as the season went on, but I put Brian Kelly's right there at cold as ice. And a lot of LSU fans were quick to correct me. I will say correct, because who has the best perspective other than a fan that's deeply rooted in the program and everything the program does? That's why I liked hearing that perspective. But LSU fans were quick to tell me that, no, his seat's actually not cold as ice. And some were a little more extreme about it, putting him on a hot seat. Some people were like, it's mildly warm, it's a little toasty. But I didn't have anybody agreeing with me. A lot of people are like, we're fed up with Brian Kelly. We don't have any faith in what he can do with this team. And because that was another thing that I kind of ran on was, I had a lot of faith in the team, which is why I picked them to hit their over on their win total. And I didn't have Brian Kelly getting fired. I didn't have his seat warm at all. It's because I put too much faith in the players and I didn't think about the coaching aspect that, Brian Kelly could blow it. That's what I said. I said he could blow it. If he and that coaching staff doesn't get in the way, if they actually do a good job coaching this team and everything works out, they're going to win a lot of games. You've got a veteran quarterback. You've got maybe a defense that has improved. You've got a balanced team for the most part, something that you haven't always had, at least as long as Brian Kelly's been there. And you got a real chance to do something special and compete for the playoff. Maybe even at least go to the playoff. But people have been fed up with Brian Kelly. And that was before the losing and the upsets this season. And I know that it's not all because of the losing, because of the defense being bad, because of the constant excuses. It's a lot more than that. It's the excuses, but it's also throwing everybody under the bus. It's just the fact that it's a known thing that Brian Kelly just came to LSU and kind of expected the gears to turn and everything to kind of work itself out. Like, okay, I'm from Notre Dame. We went to national championships. We had all the success. I'm going to go to LSU. We're going to get all the recruits. We're going to have a top 10 recruiting class and everything's just going to work out, and I'm just going to sit back and be the CEO and it's all just going to work out perfectly. Like it had for the previous 3 coaches. Brian Kelly was in for a rude awakening because that's just not how it is. And I know you've heard this talking point. If you're listening to this now on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday of this week, of week 10 here, you will have already heard this, but it is so true that the culture at LSU, it's not just any other job. Yes, there are other jobs in college football that revolve around a certain specific culture, and the area, the state that they're in, and all those things, LSU may be the most deeply rooted traditional, I guess, school in the whole country, right? Down there in Baton Rouge. Well, first of all, you're the only show in town. There is no major Power 4 school other than LSU in Louisiana. So you have a big, it's already a big market, but take that into consideration. The whole state is behind you. That adds a lot of pressure too. That adds even more extra pressure. But there's the cultural thing down there that those people in Louisiana, especially South Louisiana, but Louisiana as a whole, them folks are different. I don't care if you've been down there or not. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that people in Louisiana are a different breed of people. And if you've ever been to Baton Rouge, if you have ever been to Death Valley at night, you know that, yes, the people in Louisiana are unique. But the people that feel Death Valley, feel that stadium, feel Tiger Stadium every Saturday night. I say Saturday night because, let's face it, they get night games the majority of the time. Those people are crazy, mental. It is a completely different kind of environment than any other environment in college football. You may go to Sanford Stadium. You may go to Texas A&M. You may go to Tennessee, Auburn. Name the venue, the Swamp. Those crowds are loud. Those crowds are unique in their own right. But nothing is quite like Tiger Stadium, especially at night. Now, Texas A&M would like to have a word with me for saying that, because Texas A&M went in there and they absolutely destroyed LSU. And there's not even much discussion that we have to have on that game in our Week 9 recap, because that's exactly what it was. It was a complete failure of coaching and execution. And you would say it just had to be done. So there's a statement that came out from LSU. LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward, put this out after firing Brian Kelly, and this is his quote directly. When Coach Kelly arrived at LSU 4 years ago, we had high hopes that he would lead us to multiple SEC and national championships during his time in Baton Rouge. Ultimately, the success at the level that LSU demands simply did not materialize, and I made the decision to make a change after last night's game. I am grateful for the ongoing consultations and support of the LSU Board of Supervisors and interim president Matt Lee in this decision. We wish Coach Kelly and his family the very best in their future endeavors. We will continue to negotiate his separation and will work towards a path that is better for both parties. So just your usual kind of statement after something like this happens. And stay tuned. We'll get to the buyout thing here soon enough, but I want you to listen to that last sentence here. We will continue to negotiate his separation and will work towards a path that is better for both parties. LSU doesn't want to pay the $53 million. I'll go ahead and spoil it, but you already know. If you've been on social media, you know it's about $53 million that he's owed by the university. And LSU wants to negotiate that. They want to try to weasel their way out of that or negotiate that down a little bit. And I understand it's worth a shot, right? If I'm Brian Kelly, I'm saying, hell no. You're going to fire me. First of all, you're going to sign me to this contract. You're going to fire me in the middle of the season. You're giving me my buyout. You're giving me my money. And I'm not taking a dime less. You know, these teams, these programs have done that to themselves. And it's a thing that is an issue, like, It's all around the country. It's not exclusive to the SEC. Check this out. With the firing of Brian Kelly, college football teams are on the hook for over a listen here, $169 million just in buyouts. And here's the list, and here are the estimates. Brian Kelly at LSU, $53 million. James Franklin, Penn State, $49.7 million. Billy Napier at Florida, $21.2 million. Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State, $15 million. Sam Pittman at Arkansas, $9.8 million. Deshaun Foster, UCLA, $6.43 million. Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, $6 million. Trent Bray, Oregon State, $4 million. Trent Dilfer, UAB, $2.4 million. And Jay Norvell from Colorado State, $1.5 million. Over $169 million just in buyouts that are going to be owed just so far. And there's more coaching vacancies that are going to come up. There's more firings. There's more buyouts that are going to have to be paid. Listen to me when I tell you this. When you see things like this, I will no longer entertain the issue of players getting paid in this NIL era. When you have $170 million just in buyouts owed among all the Division I FBS schools that have fired their coach, with this number is probably going to end up over $200 million before the end of the year. Coaches, it's not their fault, right? They're not the ones that set the bar. They're not the ones that it's between agents, it's between schools. The TV networks have their hand in the cookie jar with this as well. The coaches are not at fault. I've been saying this all day. When I grow up, I want to be a fired college football coach. That's what I want to be when I grow up. But when you're paying coaches upwards of $10, $11, $12, $13 million, and then buyouts, remember Jimbo Fisher's north of $70 million? I don't want to hear any argument against players getting paid. I know it's been crazy. It's been Wild West. You obviously have the revenue sharing thing that's coming up with a $20 million cap that's going to go on top of what the collectives have been doing. And, that's a bit of a cluster, and I understand that, but it's so unfair to be against players getting paid however much that the collectives are willing to pay these kids when coaches are making ungodly amounts of money to get fired. It's really silly, in my opinion. And I know that the NIL is not the only thing. It's obviously the transfer portal. And I've always thought that the transfer portal was the thing that was the issue, not the NIL. Transfer portal is getting worked out. You also have the problem with the signing periods. They're finally fixing the transfer portal windows. So it's getting into people's heads, people that have power. It's getting into their heads, that things need to change, things need to be different. But again, when we're talking about coaches signing these huge contracts and getting paid this much money to be fired, to not coach, I can't entertain like anti-NIL stuff anymore. I'm sorry. Should it be regulated? Yes, but this is it's not even worth my time to listen to that. But back to Brian Kelly, back to LSU. So, someone that Brian Kelly had also asked for a release, he wanted Joe Sloan gone. offensive coordinator Joe Sloan. He asked for Joe Sloan to be fired, and that was like, Kelly was already probably going to be fired, but that probably really pissed off Scott Woodward pretty bad, because he was probably already going to fire Kelly, but here he is pleading for him to fire this other guy. Well, LSU did end up firing Joe Sloan, so he's out. And Alex Atkins is going to take over as the LSU play caller. He's from Florida State and Charlotte, and he's been with the team there at LSU. So he's going to take over as the play caller going forward. Oh, boy. I mean, this is, LSU, like I brought up a moment ago, that is a school that has there's immense pressure. There's the culture thing. There's all that. They do not like not losing. And this is where this job differs from the Florida job. Florida's had, 4 coaches in the past few years? If you look at LSU, and there is a pretty good graphic out there, and I wish I knew who made this. I think Louisiana Sports.net possibly made this. I'm sorry if that's not true, but there's a graphic out there floating around that talks about the LSU coaches, the past 4 LSU coaches, including Brian Kelly, in their first 4 years, Last 4 coaches: Saban, Miles, Ogeron, and Kelly. Now, all 3 of these 4 coaches have something in common. They've got some things in common. So, as I'm looking at the graphic here, you got Nick Saban. He went 39-13 in his time there with the LSU Tigers. He won an SEC title, and he won a national title. Les Miles took over. He went 42-11. He won a national title, won an SEC title as well. And then a man that was born to coach the LSU Tigers, born for a job like that, Ed Ogeron, went 40-9. Remember, he had that 2019 team that is arguably, and I don't think it's even arguably, like it is the greatest single football team in a season that's ever existed in the history of college football. He went 40-9, won an SEC title, won a national title. Brian Kelly, 34-14, no SEC championship, no national championship. He broke the cycle, and that's not acceptable. And it goes beyond the fit thing that I have spoke about, that everybody spoke about. I never thought Brian Kelly was the right guy for this job. I never did. Never thought he was a fit. I'm not the only one that shared that opinion. And it hasn't worked out for him. And regardless if you think Saban set up Les Miles for success, and I think Saban did set up Les Miles for success, Les Miles took that team that he inherited, and he did a lot of good with it. Only lost 11 games in 4 years, won an SEC title, won a national title. You have to commend him for that. Funny thing about Ed Ogeron, talking about him, he has this generational team. Ed Ogeron, one of the greatest recruiters of all time. He wins that national championship for the 2019 season, which was actually, the national title was in January of 2020 before all the craziness. They win that game. And then a season and a half later, he's gone. He gets like a $17 million buyout. A man that is built for a job like that, he's gone after a year and a half after winning a national title with Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow and company, a team filled with talent that's playing on Sundays now. Greatest football team of all time. And he's gone season and a half later. that tells you the pressure that it is there at LSU. And you have that pressure at Florida as well, but you don't have the track record. And it's been a dumpster fire down there. Florida fans will be all up in my mentions about saying that, but it's been kind of a dumpster fire. And I understand they want Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin would be a candidate for this job as well there at LSU. And this job right here, this would be the one to take if you're a candidate like that over the Florida job. Unless Kiffin just wants to be in Florida, in Gainesville. And he has reason to, I guess, if he so chooses. But this, man, the carousel's so crazy. How we've gotten just this far into the season. We haven't even gotten to the first playoff poll yet. That comes out November 4th. So we have one more Saturday before the college football playoff. The first college football playoff rankings come out. And what's it going to look like? Some things got to happen this week, here in week 10. But before we get on to week 10 later in this week, let's take a look at some other things that happened in week 9. Now, obviously, the Brian Kelly thing, the LSU thing. Texas A&M absolutely beating the brakes off of LSU in the swamp. In Death Valley. I'm sorry. I misspoke pretty bad there. So Death Valley was quiet. Everybody left really early, and Texas A&M just had their way with LSU. Now, if you just look at the stats here, and if I take a look at the box score, Marcel Reed, only 12 of 21, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. If you look at those stats right there, you're like, he didn't have too great of a game, right? Look at Garrett Nussmeier. He went 22 of 35, 168 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, obviously, the game for Texas A&M was really, they were balanced, fairly passing and running, but Marcel Reed had 13 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns with his longest run at 41 yards, and you have a plethora of other ball carriers that ran for double digits. So, just a good overall performance by Texas A&M, and it's really, if you watch the game, Brian Kelly was complaining to his coaching staff. I knew mid-game he was fully ready to throw everybody but himself under the bus. And LSU fans, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Coaches that are still on that squad, on that team, no need to worry. But the question I do bring up, because LSU, it's a wash now. They were overrated. Let's ask the question, is Texas A&M overrated? So right now, they're number 3 in the country. They've won every single game. They beat UT San Antonio. They beat Utah State. They beat Notre Dame, Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, and LSU. Only one of those teams is ranked. And that's number 12 Notre Dame earlier in the season. Now that was a pretty good rock fight. As I pull by the schedule back up here. So you tell me, is Texas A&M overrated? Are they underrated? Or are they properly rated? Well, if you look at their schedule, you may say they haven't played anybody. Well, they played a tough Notre Dame team, but still hanging on for dear life. Everybody else is not that great. However, They are still undefeated, and that's not something that the other SEC teams can say. Now, I will compare this Texas A&M team schedule-wise to Tennessee last year. Tennessee was able to make it into the playoff mainly because of their lightly, backloaded schedule. Very easy road. They could walk right into the playoffs just on what the second half of their schedule looked like. Texas A&M has got a couple tough tests, but they've got Missouri a couple weeks away. They have a bye week this week. They've got Missouri a couple weeks away. They got South Carolina, Samford, and then they play Texas down in Austin. Now, actually, that's going to be in Dallas. Excuse me. What am I thinking? That's going to be in Dallas at Texas Memorial Stadium. Yeah, it's going to be. What am I thinking? Yeah. No, it's going to be in Austin. Technology is wonderful, folks. Anyway, they're playing Texas. Texas got a home game. Does it really matter? I mean, College Station, Austin, Dallas, they're all not very far from each other. Texas is a big state, however, but that's not. Fans from both teams will be in attendance. A lot of Texas A&M fans will be there because they're probably going to be undefeated, and Texas is going to be the only thing in their way at that point from, guaranteed SEC title, like the SEC championship game, berth, or playoff berth, whatever. Now, could they mess up? Missouri is the only chance that they have. If Missouri at home, Eli Drinkowitz could somehow beat this team, but right now it's looking pretty grim for them, and that's unfortunate because Missouri was a fairly decent team, but they're gonna have a new quarterback. I forget the kid's name, but anyway, A&M's got a good easy road right now. I know it's I'm hesitant to say they're overrated, but I say right now they're properly rated, just because they haven't lost, and yeah, I know easy schedule, but we'll see. There's still plenty of football to be played. But let me tell you, this Alabama-South Carolina game was pretty interesting, wasn't it? South Carolina, they really kind of hold their own a lot of that game. But Alabama, still one of those teams that finds a way to win. Alabama, honestly, when the college football playoff poll comes out, they should be ahead of Texas A&M, and I would be shocked if they would. It wouldn't shock me because I know how the playoff committee does, but so it shouldn't surprise me that they keep Texas A&M up high. But if it was me, I would put Alabama above Texas A&M. I would put Alabama at number one, honestly. Yeah, they've had some close calls. Yeah, they've already lost a game at the first week of the season to Florida State. They've built it all back. They have multiple, like 5 top 25 wins so far at teams that are still ranked in the top 25. Because, yes, there is a difference. If you beat a team when they're ranked, whatever a high rank, and several weeks later, or at the end of the season, they're unranked, well, do you count that as a ranked win? Does it matter that you beat them when they were ranked, whatever they were ranked? Or does it matter if they maintain that ranking? Because you know that, they were a properly rated team. They wasn't overrated. That all matters. And for Alabama, Ty Simpson, a little bit of a shaky game. Still at the top of the Heisman watch list. And he's on the road to it. Because, you see the fluctuation of that list. think about who was at the top. You had Arch Manning, you had John Mateer, you had Ty Simpson, but you had some other guys. I think Lenore Sellers may have been in there somewhere. Who else? A few other guys. And it's kind of worked out that Ty Simpson is, right now, he's on a very successful Alabama team, and that matters. It doesn't always just matter about what you've done. It matters about what your team's done. It's not just about a statistical thing. But who knows? It changes from year to year, it seems like. But Alabama doing just fine. South Carolina had a chance right there at the end to come back and defeat the Crimson Tide. They couldn't do it. Alabama prevailed. So the dynamic there for South Carolina changes, because they have to travel to Oxford this week. If they would have won that game against Alabama, coming into Oxford, coming off of that humongous victory, would have been like a shot of adrenaline straight to the heart. And like, we're talking about them possibly being favored. If not them being favored, Ole Miss still being favored, but, not 12.5 points or whatever it is currently right now, the spread on that game. But that didn't happen. South Carolina could not get it done. And so you're kind of depleted, you're defeated. And you have to come to Oxford and play an Ole Miss team that should have beat Georgia. I know should have, coulda, woulda. They didn't. They played Georgia hard in Sanford Stadium, ruckus environment. Should have beat Georgia. Didn't. Lost by 8 points or whatever it was. It was a touchdown. Then they travel in the very next week. They get up, travel to Norman, Oklahoma, and they give Oklahoma a pretty big game. A little bit of back and forth, but they manage in very tough field conditions and rain and all those things. They managed to beat Oklahoma. They actually beat Oklahoma by 8 and should have been more. I'll say that. Chambliss found his rhythm again. Didn't have the same mistakes. Finished the game. Had a great fourth quarter. The defense picked themselves up off the mat. They showed themselves to really be better, be improved. Didn't have the same issues that they did last week. A lot cleaner game penalty-wise. And, Lane Kiffin, it is a testament to him and how he has tried to keep that team together despite all of the coaching rumors and all those things that have plagued an Ole Miss team in the past. At least for now, they were able to get through the last true tough hurdle of the season. And I've said this before, but the great work that they did early in the year to not let those trap games, not let those road blocks, those little tiny bumps in the road derail you. You did good then. You won those games. You won the games that you should have won. That way you can rest right now. Yeah, you got beat by Georgia, but that was your first loss. You didn't lose to a Kentucky or an LSU like you did last season. And honestly, I think Ole Miss can't afford to screw up again. But this is what I kind of said in my mind. Okay, going into this past week, week 9, if Ole Miss beats Oklahoma, I think they have an incredible chance, a great chance that I would almost want to put money on that they're going to go 11-1, 10-2 at the worst, 11-1, absolutely sustainable. And a team that is in a rebuild year with a D2 quarterback and a lot of players that are playing on Sundays right now from last year's team that went 9-3 and missed the playoff. that is a sentiment to the coaching effort by Lane Kiffin and his coaching staff. Charlie Weiss, Pete Golding, and a whole slew of talented coaches and analysts over in the Manning Center there in Oxford, Mississippi. So it is a testament to what they've done. You know, this is like old school Nick Saban stuff. Oh yeah, we just won a national title. We're in a rebuild year this season. Don't expect too much out of us. And then they win another national title that year in the rebuild year. But Ole Miss, you know, they got it done, and that's what matters. And they were resilient. And whatever happens with Kiffin, as we tie all this back into the coaching carousel, whatever happens with Kiffin, if he can focus, and if this team can focus, and if the fans can focus on the now, don't worry about if he's going to go. Look, I know there's plenty of reason to worry, regardless of what anybody says. There's reason to worry that your coach could be gone. And I don't think that's, I don't think you should hate him if he does make that decision. But you have an amazing chance to go to the playoff, something that is a milestone that only a select few of schools can say that they've done. And yeah, it's a 12-team playoff now. Yeah, it's a lot easier to go than it was for 10 years there when it was just a 4-team playoff. But you have a chance to do something so special, and it's right there in the palm of your hand. And I don't know if there has been a chance, been as clear of a road, as clear of a path for Ole Miss to make it to the playoff as it is this season. I mean, there's been other good teams. Last year, they should have went. They didn't. Their schedule's a little more shaky. This schedule lays it out perfectly for them to go. So don't worry about who your coach is going to be next year. Don't worry about if your players are going to be around next year. Focus on right now. Focus on what's going on right now and the great chance that they have right now to do some incredible things. And maybe, hopefully, Kiffin and the team and everyone around the program don't get bogged down by all the drama. Like I said before, I don't think Kiffin goes. But I will say this, and I will add this. Before, I had about a 95% chance that, Kiffin's staying. In my mind, 95% chance he's staying. Well, now that's about 75%. It's about a 75% chance in my mind Lane Kiffin is staying in Oxford at Ole Miss. And I'm probably going to change my mind a little bit more, and I'm going to update that as time goes on because I just don't know. And the thing about it is, I know there was the whole ESPN documentary thing, the E60 thing, and everything that Lane Kiffin has said, and I believe every bit of that. It's true, 100%. He's also said that it's not about money, and he never considers money in a decision. Okay. Write that down. But here's the thing. And I'm speaking to Ole Miss fans here. If Lane Kiffin, at the end of this season, you have an incredible opportunity to go to the playoff, to host a playoff, the path is set up perfectly to do those things. Think about the now. Worry about this season. And you know what? If this is all said and done, and if Ole Miss goes to the playoff, and if they win a game, or if they lose, or however far they go, if Lane Kiffin, and I love the dude, if Lane Kiffin does decide to leave, to take the Florida job, to take the LSU job, do not automatically assume that, it's just the same old Lane Kiffin. Oh, the same old guy. He's never changed. He's the same guy he was when he left Tennessee in the middle of the night to go take the Southern Cal job. No. you can put it like this. If that does happen, you can say, okay, Saban rejuvenated his career, picked his career up, set it back, reset his career. Then he went to FAU, and he worked that muscle to try to get back into coaching. That was the first step. Then he gets back into the SEC, goes to Ole Miss, and he rejuvenates himself at the beginning, puts himself back up on the pedestal, takes several steps up, if you ask me. But then not only does he rejuvenate his career fully, he rejuvenates himself as a person, as a dad, as many other things. Because like he said when he came to Oxford, he says he needed Oxford more than Oxford needed him. I believe that wholeheartedly. His time at Ole Miss, it has built him as a coach, it has built him as a person. And I think he appreciates that, will always appreciate that, will always love Oxford, and will always love Ole Miss for that. And if he decides to leave, I know it's going to be sad. I know people are going to be pissed. I know people are going to hate Lane Kiffin. All the people that have loved him for 6 years are going to hate him for that. But try not to. Try to look at it from his perspective. It's going to be a family decision. If he and his family decide, you know what, this is God's plan for us, because I know that's what he's going to say, because he's going to bring that up, that God's plan for him is, and for his family, is to move on to this Florida job or this LSU job and go from there. I think I have to respect that. I wouldn't like that. I'd be pretty dadgum upset, honestly. Especially if I've spent a lot of money, on this program. If I give a lot of money to the Grove Collective, for example, I'd be pretty damn pissed. And that's okay. That's warranted. As a college football fan, that's perfectly fine. But the fact of the matter is, a coach is not going to stay somewhere forever. He's 50 years old. He's, there's just a select handful of jobs that he's going to take. The Alabama job would probably be number one. Or I always thought he would go back to the NFL. And that would be where he finishes his career out. But let's also look at it the other way. Lane Kiffin turns down the LSU job, turns down the Florida job. Those two fan bases are pissed. They completely do a 180 on Lane Kiffin and say he's the devil. He's the second coming of Satan. He is the worst thing that's ever happened in all of mankind. They will completely flip the script on him, turn on him, and they'll be making excuses. I know that, and that's okay. That's all part of the fun of the fandom of the sport that we love. That passion. I love that passion. I understand that passion. I do. He stays at Ole Miss. He's going to be there for a considerable amount of time. We're talking about maybe upwards of 10 years. Because if he turns down Florida, turns down LSU, Alabama's the only job that's out there left. And Kalen DeBoer is, the way it's looking now, he's got as much time as he wants there in Tuscaloosa. Kiffin's going to win a lot of games, go to a playoff multiple times. You never know. One year, there could be an outlier. They may win a national title. They may compete for a national title. They may win an SEC championship. All part of the process. As, money continues to rise, as interest continues to rise, as time goes on. Statues will be built in Oxford at Ole Miss on campus for Lane Kiffin. He will have a legacy if he stays there in Oxford. But I just don't know if that's what matters to him. All that recognition, statues, and his name somewhere, and all this stuff right here. He said that in the E60 documentary, that it was all about those things. It was all about, I want to have statues, and I want to be the number one guy, and I want everybody to talk about me, and it's all be about me. And as he's grown as a person, as a parent, and as a football coach, obviously he sees everything differently. His relationship with his players are different. It's not all about the X's and O's. It's about family. It's about the relationships. It's about all those things, development of players, watching his family develop, being there by their side. As we see Knox Kiffin lighting up there at Oxford High School, and you've got other family members there. Chris Kiffin, his brother is there. His family's there. You had Monty and Lane Kiffin's mother were there. The family dynamic is really strong, and they can all they can say they're going to stay around. They could pack up and leave if that is what's right for all of them. But if they do stay, it's going to be a hell of a time in Oxford for a long time. And it's a continuing situation. It's a developing situation. And as the coaching carousel spins in 2025, it is as crazy as I've ever seen it. And I am loving every freaking second of it. So, I think I've spoke about the carousel just about enough today. The next episode, we're going to get into Week 10. A few good matchups to look forward to. And who knows what news will have came up between now and then. So you've been listening to the College Football Y'all podcast. Brandon Taylor here. Like I said, please like and subscribe if you love college football. If you want more of this content, please support me. That way I know that I'm having some support out there, that I need to do more content, less content. I always strive to do more. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.